Retro Mondays.
Hey, what's happening, gamers? Welcome to another Retro Monday, where the goal of this show is to turn your Monday into a fun day. Yeah. Similar to my successful Batman series from 2008, I will be looking at a few classic X-Men games from the 1990s because of the X-Men's First Class movie that released on June 3rd. Today's episode is Xmen Mutant Apocalypse, which released in November of 1994 during the height of the popular cartoon show on Fox Kids. Development of the game was handled by Capcom and is a side-scrolling action game that mixes Mega Man with Street Fighter II. Now, the game's story has the 5 remaining X-Men heading to Genosha to free their fellow mutants who are in captivity. The whole game is structured by a series of missions that Xavier has assigned to specific members of his team. However, each mission must be successful, and if your X-Men is killed, then you get a game over. As you start the game, each hero has 2 lives, but if you play the game on training mode, then you have up to 4. Keep in mind that you can't pass the first chapter though if you're playing in training. Each level contains both a sub-boss and an end-stage boss, and there is no checkpoint system in place, so when you lose a life, you start the stage over. But like with most games, X-Men does feature a password system. Gameplay is a lot like Mega Man X, as I stated before, except the only difference is they're X-Men. Players take control in the X-Men's blue team, featuring Wolverine with his adamantium claws, Gambit and his explosive personality, Psylocke and her psychic and ninja abilities, Beast's wit and agility, and finally Cyclops leads the team with his optic blasts. Each character has main attacks and can use their mutant powers as well. Although, in order to use these moves, you will need to input the correct Street Fighter combination for it to work. During the level, the player will discover different power-ups scattered abroad. The red containers with the X symbol on it restore your health, and the X icons give you an extra life after collecting 3 of them. Which brings me to the first of many minor complaints I have about this game. I really want to know why the developer was thinking it would be cool for us to collect 3 of these to get just 1 life. The game is already challenging enough without this, but they weren't satisfied with that. Nope, they had to dangle the banana in front of an angry gorilla. But to add insult to injury, the devs have placed the icons in some of the most bizarre and hard to reach places in the levels. I'm not a fan of the mission aspect of the game either, or having a game over because of failing another hero's level. As for the training levels, I would say that the X button was a great idea for using these special abilities, and I wish that they would have included this for the main game. Because even a Street Fighter vet like myself will struggle executing a move perfectly every time, and eventually, you're gonna mess up. Next, this is kind of considered a spoiler for this game, so skip ahead to 425, so you don't hear it. This game is called Mutant Apocalypse, right? And yes, the evil mutant does appear in this game, but his role in this game is just pathetic. He is the last boss of Chapter 2, and that's it. But what made it worse is the guy appears on the box, his name is hinted throughout the game as being the main villain, and it's a letdown. Because you guessed it, Magneto is the final boss. What? That's not right. At least the plot starts to make a little sense, because now Eric is ticked and he's gonna nuke Genosha for kidnapping his kind. Still, the immortal mutant isn't the only one to get the shaft in this game. Both the Mega Red and the unstoppable Juggernaut appear in this game, but only in the Danger Room. Ha! Fail. What's funny about all this though is if you lose to either one of these guys, you end up losing a life, and you can even get a game over at this point too. But I digress. For the most part, this game is very true to the source material of the comics and the TV show, which shows the team did their homework for the most part. For instance, only members missing from the roster of the blue team are Rogue and Jubilee. One could theorize that they're among the captured mutants though. Nonetheless, I look at this as a blessing in disguise, because poor old Betsy looks like a thin dude and dragged. Ugh, gross. Besides all that fluff, my final real issue with this game that really annoys me as a comic book fan is Wolverine is powerless in this game. Yet every other X-Men has a mutant power but him. I'm completely serious. His mutant healing factor is absent from this game. This is shocking to say the least, because even the awesomely bad Marvel games featuring Wolverine Most of them offered that ability to heal. Still, this game doesn't let you do anything. Your killer move is the Dragon Punch. My brain is swelling over this and I just can't get over this. Only one question continues to race through my mind. Why, Capcom? Just why? We all know health is a rarity in this game, right? So if Wolvie was able to heal, then he would have been a better character in this game. Instead, he ends up being one of the weakest characters in the game. So for the end of the game, you'll most likely either play as Beast or Psylocke to spam your way to victory. That's sad. Okay, relax, X fans. I don't hate this game at all, but I just wanted to express verbally what many of you were thinking or thought when you played this game. Time to move on to the good aspects. Graphically, this game looks stunning. As I mentioned earlier, this game takes cues from the successful cartoon show and it tries to mimic the art style of Jim Lee in 16-bit form. The sprite of the X-Men are pretty detailed and have excellent animations to them as well. Likewise, the environments and level layouts are equally impressive and change throughout the game. Another thing this game did that I actually like is they changed up the repetitive nature of the game by replacing different enemies. I really applaud the devs for this move because it adds a sense of wonder to the game and adventure. It would have been really easy to just keep using the same sprites for the rest of the game, but after leaving Genosha, you don't fight the same foes anymore. I love that! You face new ones, like those bug things and Asteroid M's flying henchmen dudes. Now, you all know me, I am a huge fan of music in video games, and sometimes music either adds to the gaming experience and makes it so much better, or works the opposite way. I'm happy to say that the music actually makes this game better. However, it doesn't hurt that the music sounds a lot like a Mega Man game. Most of the tunes are just so epic and really fit the mood of this game beautifully, and just made me want to play it so much more. The score was handled by Setsu Yamamoto, whose credits include Mega Man X, Aladdin, Final Fight 2, Rival Schools, and co-scored several Street Fighter games with the in-house Capcom band Alpha Lyla. While those bells and whistles for the game were very impressive, the gameplay is what makes this game so unique. Each character plays differently than the other one, and that's a good thing. A great example of this is Beast stages require exploration and mainly make use of Hank's ability to hang onto surfaces, whereas Psylocke stages require a lot of platforming and fighting. She relies on a variation of ninja moves and her energy blades. Although both Summers and Remy stages are very similar to one another and pretty slow-paced for my tastes. Luckily, Weapon X stages, he gets his hands dirty with a lot of fighting. Like with his other X-Men counterparts, the gameplay mechanics do change throughout the level, and eventually you'll need to use his claws to scale the side of the walls, similar to the way Spider-Man does. Out of all the things I mentioned about this game, the best thing about it is the unlimited use of the mutant powers. Since the special moves are input through a combination, this means as long as you can do that technique, you can use the move whenever you want to. This feature alone made this X-Men game stand out big time. No other X-Men game at that time let players do this. They all had like an MP meter or power-ups that you would need to collect in order to use the powers. Let me tell you, in terms of superhero games, this just was not common, and it was a great addition to Mutant Apocalypse. As a kid, this game really gave me the runaround, and I did not beat it until my teenage years. Still, I enjoyed the inclusion of the passwords, and could at least attempt to defeat the final boss. I know what you're all wondering, was there an X-Men sequel published for the Super Nintendo? And the answer is no. Instead, Wolvie joined Marvel's greatest champions in War of the Gems for the Super Nintendo, which I reviewed 2 years ago by the way, and it was one of the last games to release on the SNES in 1996. Alrighty, so does this game have lasting appeal? I'm gonna say yes it does. While the game can be very frustrating, it can also be a lot of fun. Plus, it's not that this game was bad or anything like that, but had it released before Konami's smash hit X-Men game, I think this would have been pretty well received, because the game wasn't broken compared to a lot of the Marvel games that we saw on the NES and SNES. This game does the mutants proud though. Yeah, the learning curve is a little intense and might have you ripping out your hair, but once you get the hang of it, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse is just a really well-made game, and one of Capcom's best for the Super Nintendo, even with its faults. To wrap up, if you can find this exciting game, buy it! You will be so glad you did. Okay, thus wraps up another Retro Mondays. Join me next time as I look at X-Men The Clone Wars for the Sega Genesis. An okay game. While not my favorite superhero game, mind you, it's not as bad as some people think. In the meantime, if you don't mind supporting me by checking out my band's album on iTunes, that would be awesome. Oh, and if you're new to my stuff, then why not subscribe? It's free for you, and you can't beat free. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch, and until we meet again, gamers, God bless and happy gaming.